The problem with nearly dying is that it makes you see everything differently. I'm lying on my back in the middle of Meridian Street, rain hammering against my face, my vision fracturing at the edges. Was a car. Somewhere to my right, its engine ticking as it cools. My chest feels like someone's replaced my ribs with broken glass. I can taste blood and asphalt, but I'm conscious enough to notice her. She's kneeling beside me, her dark eyes wide with something that looks like fear, her hands hovering over my body like she's terrified of making it worse. Water runs down her face. Rain or tears, I can't tell. She's wearing a black coat that's soaked through, and her mouth is moving, saying something over and over, but the ringing in my ears swallows the words. Then she presses her jacket against my ribs, and the pressure is white-hot. "Stay with me," she whispers. "Please, God, please stay with me." The paramedics arrive 17 seconds later. I know because I count them. It's a survival mechanism. Focus on something concrete when your body is doing its best to shut down. Numbers. Seconds. The number of times she says, "Please." My name is Marcus Ashford, and 3 weeks before that moment, I was untouchable. The Ashford name opens doors in this city. My family's architecture firm has designed half the skyline. My father spent 30 years building an empire of steel and glass. He spent 3 months dying of cancer, and 6 months after his funeral, I discovered he'd left me with a ticking time bomb instead of a legacy. Embezzlement, corporate fraud. My CFO, a man who'd worked with my father for 2 decades, had been bleeding the company dry for years. My father had known, had covered it up, had left me a note in his safe deposit box explaining why he'd done nothing. Better to deal with this quietly than destroy a good man's life. My father's morality was flexible. Mine, I thought, wasn't. But that's before you realize that good man had a wife and 3 kids and a house with an underwater mortgage. I fired him anyway, reported everything. The FBI was involved. Lawsuits multiplied like cells in a petri dish. My board wanted me to sign a settlement that would make this all go away, quietly like Dad would have wanted. I refused. That's when Marcus Ashford became less untouchable and more controversial. It was in that storm of legal chaos that she appeared. Her name is Elena Voss, and everyone told me to stay away from her. She was working at our firm in the archives, a contractor no one important hired to reorganize decades of project files. We met in the basement, surrounded by the ghosts of buildings that no longer existed, pulling blueprints from acid-free boxes. "You're the CEO," she said. Not a question. She didn't look up from the file she was reviewing. "Guilty." I meant it as a joke. She didn't smile. "The one making everything worse instead of letting your father's decisions die with him." I should have left. Any reasonable person would have. But there was something in her tone, not judgment exactly. Understanding. Like she was reading a summary of my life and finding it inevitable somehow. "You knew my father?" "No." She finally looked at me. She had the kind of eyes that made you feel like she could see through your ribs directly to whatever you were hiding. "But I know how men in power protect themselves, and how the people who love them get destroyed in the process." The way she said it, like she was speaking from experience, should have been a red flag. It was. I ignored it. "Why are you really here?" I asked. She closed the file. "Does it matter? Should it?" In a perfect world, no. She never did answer the question directly, but I started finding reasons to be in that basement. I told myself it was about checking on the archival project. I told myself I wasn't waiting for her. I was lying to myself. Elena was beautiful in the way that expensive art is beautiful. You couldn't explain why it moved you, only that it did. But she was also deeply guarded. Every conversation had layers. She asked me questions about my childhood, my relationships, my regrets, but never offered anything personal in return. "It's safer that way," she said once, when I pressed her about where she was from. "Safer for who?" "For you." That should have terrified me. Instead, it fascinated me. She didn't come to the office Christmas party, but I found her in the lobby afterward, wearing a dark dress that made her look like she was mourning something. A man was with her, tall, blonde, wearing the kind of easy confidence that comes from never having lost anything. Marcus, he said warmly, extending his hand. I've heard so much about you.
Julian Kessler.
I'm an old friend of Elena's. Something in my chest went rigid. We knew each other in Prague, Julian continued, smiling at Elena with an intimacy that made my hands clench. Before everything fell apart there. Elena's face was carefully neutral. It was a long time ago, Julian. Not that long. He kept her gaze locked with his. Some people stay with you forever, don't they? I watched something flicker across Elena's expression. Fear, maybe, or regret. She looked away first. I should go, she said quietly, and she left. Just like that. Didn't say goodbye to me. Didn't look back. Julian watched her disappear, then turned to me with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Be careful with her, Marcus. Elena has a complicated relationship with the truth. Beautiful women usually do. 3 days later, Elena was hit by a car, except it wasn't an accident, and I only understood that when I woke up in the same hospital, 3 floors above her, with my own medical team explaining that I'd been the actual target. Someone had tried to kill me. The details came out slowly. It was dark. The car had accelerated when I stepped into the street. Elena had thrown herself in front of me, and the vehicle had hit her instead. She'd protected me from something I hadn't even known was coming. She saved your life, Detective Sarachin told me, standing in my hospital room with a folder full of traffic cam footage and witness statements. Took the full impact, so you got clipped instead. You got off with fractured ribs and a concussion. She's got a broken femur, 3 broken ribs, and a punctured lung. Who did it? That's the interesting part, Chin said. The car was registered to a shell corporation. The driver ditched it 2 blocks away and disappeared. But here's what concerns us: the trajectory, the timing, all of it suggests someone was specifically targeting you. And she appeared at exactly the right moment to stop it. The implication hung in the air between us. You think she was involved? I think we need to ask her. Chun closed the folder. But you might ask first. Who knew you'd be on Meridian Street at 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday? I couldn't answer that. Elena knew because we'd made plans. But it was only a text message sent an hour before. No one else should have known. Unless she'd told them. She's sedated when I see her. Tubes running from her arms. Her left leg suspended in traction. Half her face is bruised purple. She looks small and fragile in that hospital bed. And the thought that she'd thrown herself in front of a car for me creates a sensation in my chest that feels almost like drowning. She's stable, the doctor tells me. But the next 48 hours are critical. The lung is functioning. But if there's any infection, I'm not listening. I'm watching her chest rise and fall, counting her breaths the way I counted seconds on that street, and trying to reconcile the woman in front of me with the possibility that she'd orchestrated her own injury to play hero. Julian arrives that evening. He brings flowers, white roses, which feels calculated, and treats her hospital room like a theater stage. He sits beside her bed and holds her hand and looks absolutely devastated in a way that feels rehearsed. Such a terrible accident, he says to me, barely glancing over. Elena's always been so impulsive, so willing to sacrifice herself for others. It's beautiful, really, and dangerous. You knew her in Prague, I say. I did. We had quite the romance, if I'm being honest. But Elena, she has patterns. She takes on other people's problems until they consume her. I tried to save her from herself, but some people don't want to be saved. He squeezes her unconscious hand. She'll wake up and remember that she's supposed to feel guilty about something. That's how her mind works. You should be prepared for that. When Elena wakes up, the first thing she does is ask if I'm okay. I'm sitting beside her bed. It's 3 a.m. I haven't been home since the accident. You shouldn't have done that, I tell her. Done what? She's groggy, drugged. Her voice barely a whisper. Thrown yourself in front of a car. Her eyes flutter open. Even drugged, even broken. There's something razor-sharp about her gaze. I couldn't let him. She stops, closes her eyes. Never mind. Never mind? Elena, you nearly died. Someone tried to kill me. And you... My voice cracks. You put yourself between me and a car. Silence. Long and heavy. Did you know? Ask. About the car? Did you know someone was coming? She doesn't answer. But her hand, the one that's not attached to an 4, flinches. Did Julian put you up to this? Now her eyes snap open.
No.
God, no, Marcus. Julian is. She stops again, but this time it's different. It's fear. What? He's dangerous in ways you don't understand. And I. She swallows hard, her jaw clenching. I can't explain. Not yet. But you need to stay away from him. Promise me. I don't understand what's happening. I know, she whispers. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. For what? But she's already closing her eyes, already drifting back under the weight of the medication. And I'm left sitting there, watching her sleep, unable to shake the feeling that I'm watching someone caught between two impossible truths. That she'd saved my life, and that maybe, somehow, she'd also set up the moment that required saving. The hospital parking garage camera footage never clarifies the driver's face. The Shell Corporation leads nowhere. Julian Kessler is cooperative with police and has an alibi. He was at a charity benefit when the car hit me, with 17 witnesses who can confirm it. But Detective Chun pulls me aside before I leave the hospital. Elena Voss was flagged in a case we're working, she says quietly. 3 years ago in Prague. She was allegedly involved with a man connected to organized crime. Nothing was proven, but her name kept appearing in surveillance footage around his operations. The pieces start to align in ways I don't want them to. Is she in danger? Ask. I think, Chun says carefully, that you should ask her that yourself, and you should ask why she's been watching you for the past 6 months. What? Her apartment is 3 blocks from yours. We found journals, detailed observations of your schedule, your associates, your movements. All dated entries, going back months. She's been monitoring you, Mr. Ashford. The only question is why. The rain is still falling when I leave the hospital. I drive through the city in a daze, trying to understand Elena Voss. Trying to reconcile the woman who saved my life with the possibility that she'd been orchestrating every moment between us. And then, at a red light, I see it. A woman standing under a streetlight, in a black coat, watching my car drive past. Takes me 3 blocks to realize it's not Elena. It's someone else. Someone else who's been watching me too. And I understand, with a clarity that feels like ice in my veins, that I've been playing a game I didn't know I was in. And the only person I can't decide if I trust or not is the one who's lying in a hospital bed, broken and drugged and afraid. The only woman I've ever wanted to believe in, even though everything suggests I shouldn't. Elena is released from the hospital after 8 days. I pick her up because every instinct I have screams that she shouldn't be alone, that whatever's happening will escalate the moment she's outside that controlled environment. She's quiet in the car, watching the city pass by like it's a country she's never seen before. Where am I taking you? Ask. Away, she says. Anywhere but my apartment. It's not safe. Nothing about this is safe. She finally looks at me. Do you understand that? I need you to understand that before you do something that gets you killed. Then explain it to me. I can't. Why not? Because I promised I would keep you safe. And telling you the truth is the opposite of that. There's a desperation in her voice that makes me grip the steering wheel harder. Elena, I've seen the surveillance. I know you've been watching me. I know about Prague. I know. You don't know anything, she says sharply. And what you think you know is dangerous. I take her to my penthouse. It's the most secure building in the city. Private elevators, 24/7 concierge, security that cost more than most people's houses. It's the only place I can think of where she might actually be safe. Where we might be safe. She doesn't protest. The first night, she won't sleep. She sits by the window in the dark, looking out at the city lights, a cup of tea going cold in her hands. Talk to me, I say, settling onto the couch behind her. I can't. You keep saying that. Because it's true.
Elena.
My father was an investigative journalist, she interrupts. He spent 30 years exposing corruption, finding people who thought they were too powerful to touch. For most of my life, that made him my hero. She takes a sip of the cold tea, doesn't react to the temperature. Then he started investigating a man named Viktor Petrov, Russian oligarch, arms dealer, connected to half the organized crime organizations in Europe. She turns to face me, and there's something haunted in her eyes. My father found something that would have destroyed Petrov completely, and Petrov made sure my father never published it. He made it look like a suicide, but I knew better. My father loved life too much to end it. He loved justice too much to go quietly. She sets down the teacup. I spent the next 10 years finding out what he discovered. And when I found out, I understood why my father had to die. Because it wasn't just Petrov. It was half the powerful men in Europe, including people here, in this city. People with connections you can't imagine. Understanding crashes over me. And you came to this city to what? Expose them? To stop them, she says quietly. From destroying more families. From creating more orphans. From continuing to think they're untouchable. By doing what? Watching me. By finding out if you were one of them. The words hit like a physical blow. I came to your company to go through your father's records. I needed to know if the Ashford name was connected to Petrov's network. If your father knew what was happening and stayed silent anyway. If you were going to follow the same path. And I found something worse, she whispers. I found out that you were the only one who was actually trying to stop it. That you were taking the fall that your father should have taken. That you were risking everything to do the right thing, and there were people, very powerful people, who couldn't allow that to continue. She steps closer to me. That's why someone tried to kill you, Marcus. Not because of the embezzlement case. Because of what's under it. Because your father's CFO was fronting for Petrov's money laundering operation. And once the FBI started investigating, once the light started shining on that part of your company, Petrov decided you were a liability. Who else knows? Julian, she says.
Julian Kessler.
He's Petrov's connection here. He's charming and sophisticated and utterly ruthless. He's the one who orchestrated your father's death, though it was made to look like cancer. He's the one who's been watching you since you took over the company. And he's the one who decided you needed to be eliminated. But he wasn't the driver.
No.
He's smart. He uses other people to do the actual work. But the car, the threats, all of it, it comes from him. It comes from Petrov. I'm moving before I realize what I'm doing. Pulling her close. Holding her like she might disappear. You threw yourself in front of a car to protect me from this. I threw myself in front of a car because I couldn't let them have you, she says into my shoulder. Because somewhere along the way, watching you stopped being about investigating whether you were guilty and started being about not being able to breathe when I thought about you being hurt. She pulls back enough to look at me. That's when Julian knew he had leverage. That's when he made his move. We don't leave the penthouse for 3 days. I tell my office I'm taking personal time. I tell my security team there's a threat and they need to sweep the building. I tell everyone who tries to reach me that I'll call them back. I don't call anyone back. Instead, I learn Elena in the intimate way of people hiding from the world. I learn that she hums when she thinks no one is listening. That she takes her coffee black, her tea with honey. That she flinches when doors close too loudly. That she's left-handed and writes in a script so beautiful it looks like armor. I learn that she falls asleep with her hand reaching for me, even as she's resisting the urge to trust me with everything. Tell me about Prague, I say one night, as she's curled against my chest and the city lights paint long shadows across the room. Do you really want to know? Yes. She's quiet for so long I think she won't answer. Then, Julian and I were together. For 2 years. I thought I was in love. I thought. She stops. Starts again. I thought he was a good man who'd made bad choices. That I could save him. That love could save him. My arms tighten around her. He used me to get close to my father. To gather intelligence. To set up everything that happened next. And when I figured it out, when I finally saw him for what he was, he told me that I could either leave and live quietly or stay and die quietly. He said he wasn't going to hurt me, but he wasn't going to let me stop him either. So you left. I left. I spent 10 years building a case against him, gathering evidence, finding other people he'd hurt. And then I found the connection to your father, to your company, and I thought, she shifts to look at me. I thought maybe I could finally end this. Maybe I could stop him before he hurt anyone else. By getting close to me. By getting close to you, she confirms. Except that's not what happened. Instead of just watching you, instead of just gathering intel, I fell in love with you. And that made everything worse, because now he has leverage, and now I can't protect you the way I promised myself I would. I kiss her then, desperate and deep, trying to pour all the things I can't say into that single moment, trying to communicate that she's already protected me, that she's the only anchor I have in this chaos. We'll leave, I tell her. Tonight. We'll take whatever we need and we'll disappear. We'll go somewhere he can't reach us. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? It works by you staying, fighting, and finishing what you started. It works by me making sure he can't hurt you anymore.
Elena.
Listen to me, she says, pressing her finger to my lips. I've spent 10 years running. I've spent 10 years afraid. And I watched my father die because I wasn't brave enough to stop someone evil. I'm not doing that again. Not with you. She kisses me then, and it tastes like desperation and determination. But I need you to trust me, even when it looks like I'm betraying you, even when the evidence says I've done something awful. Can you do that? What are you going to do? Something that will make you hate me, she whispers. At least for a little while. Julian calls the next morning.
Elena answers.
I'm standing beside her, listening to his voice come through the speaker. Smooth, amused, knowing. My beautiful Elena, he says. I hear you've been playing nurse to your CEO. How is he? Why are you calling? Because I wanted to make sure you understand the terms of our agreement. What agreement? The one where you convince Mr. Ashford to sign a settlement with my associates. Where he stops digging into your father's old files. Where he learns to accept that some wars aren't worth winning. Elena's hand is trembling. Or, Julian continues, his girlfriend, who is clearly far too important to him, has an accident that's far less fortunate than last time. The line goes dead. Elena sets down the phone and walks away from me, her shoulders curved inward like she's trying to disappear. I'm going to do it, she says. I'm going to convince you to settle. I'm going to betray everything you've been fighting for.
No.
Yes. She won't look at me, because the alternative is that they kill you. And I can't. I can't survive watching that happen. Elena, there has to be another way. There is, she says quietly. But it requires you to let me handle it. It requires you to trust me enough to let me play the role I need to play. Which is? She turns to face me, and there's devastation in her eyes. The woman who chooses love over justice. The woman who betrays you because she's too afraid to lose you. The next morning, Elena Voss walks into the Ashford corporate offices and tells the board of directors that I've asked her to negotiate a settlement with Petrov's associates. She's perfect. She's desperate and in love and thoroughly convincing. She explains that the legal battle is destroying me, that I'm not thinking clearly, that I need to stop fighting and start healing. I watch it happen from my office, and every word feels like a knife. By midday, the settlement is being drafted. By evening, Petrov's people are congratulating themselves on removing a problem without bloodshed. And I'm standing in the penthouse, looking at the woman I love, watching her meet my eyes with an expression of absolute heartbreak. I'm sorry, she says. I'm so sorry. And I feel the exact moment when my faith in her shatters. Because I don't understand that she's sacrificing herself. I don't understand that this is her playing a role to protect me. I only understand that she's chosen love over everything, including my life's work, including my father's legacy, including the justice he never got. I only understand that she's betrayed me, and the look in her eyes suggests she expected exactly this reaction. The settlement papers are signed 3 days later. I don't attend the signing. I can't stand to watch Elena finalize my surrender. Instead, I'm at home, nursing a drink that tastes like ashes, trying to reconcile the woman I thought I loved with the woman who just dismantled everything I've been fighting for. Detective Chun arrives at my door with a warrant. "Where's Elena Voss?" she demands, flanking my living room with 2 uniformed officers. "Why?" "Because we just received an anonymous tip that she's been stealing files from your office. Corporate espionage. We have evidence of her accessing restricted security records over the past 6 months." My stomach drops. "That's not." "She wouldn't." "She did," Chun says, showing me a tablet with security footage. It's Elena, clear as day, inserting a USB drive into the server in the archive room. Dated 3 months ago, when she was supposedly just filing documents. The room tilts. "Who sent you this tip?" "Anonymous email, untraceable. But it included enough detail that we had to investigate. And the files she accessed, they're proprietary."
Worth million.
"Your father's original research, architectural designs for projects that never got built. She took everything that had value. She wouldn't sell that information. Then what would she do with it?" I don't have an answer. "She's not here," Chun asks, and when I don't respond, she signals the officers. "We'll need to bring her in for questioning. If you see her, you let us know immediately, or you're obstructing a federal investigation." "Understood." Elena doesn't come home that night. I try calling her 100 times. She doesn't answer. By morning, there are news reports about a corporate espionage investigation involving Ashford architecture. My name, Elena's name, everything spreading across the financial news channels like poison. Julian appears at my office by noon. He looks genuinely sympathetic, genuinely concerned, and I hate him for it. "I heard about the investigation," he says, closing the door to my office carefully behind him. "What a terrible situation. I assume you didn't know she was stealing from you. Get out." "The thing about Elena," Julian continues, taking a seat without invitation, "is that she's a con artist. A very good one. She spent her entire life infiltrating organizations and extracting valuable information. Her father was an investigative journalist. Did she tell you that? Or did she lie about that like she's lied about everything else? Her father was killed. Her father was a criminal who was eliminating his competition," Julian says calmly. "Elena watched him die because she finally realized what he was. And that's when she learned the family business. She learned how to get close to people, how to make them fall in love with her, how to extract everything of value and disappear." He stands, straightens his jacket. "She played you beautifully, Marcus. The traumatized woman in need of protection. The damsel in distress throwing herself in front of cars. All of it was performance. And you were so desperate to be the hero that you didn't see it. Why are you telling me this?" "Because I like you," Julian says, and he sounds like he means it. "And I thought you deserved to know the truth. Elena is gone. She's taken your father's research and disappeared. In a few months, these designs will appear in buildings across Eastern Europe, and you'll never be able to prove where they came from. She's already won." He moves to the door. "The only question is whether you're going to prison for cooperating with her theft, or whether you're going to cooperate with the authorities and minimize the damage." I find her 3 days later. Not because I'm looking for her, but because she finds me. She's waiting in my penthouse, sitting in the dark with a loaded revolver on the table in front of her. When I turn on the lights, she flinches like I've struck her. "Before you say anything," she says, "I need you to listen. The police are looking for you. There's evidence. There's false evidence," she interrupts. "Manufactured by Julian. Planted by him. I never stole anything from your office. But I needed you to believe I did. I needed everyone to believe I did. Why would you want that? Because it's the only way to keep you safe." She stands, and I see just how fragile she's become. There are dark circles under her eyes. She's lost weight. She looks like someone held together only by desperation. "As long as you're connected to me, as long as people believe I'm stealing from you, they'll think I'm the threat. They'll focus on me instead of on what you know. Elena, this is insane. You're going to prison." "No, I'm not." She picks up the revolver. "Because I'm not going to let them take me alive. The words hit me like a physical blow. What are you saying? I'm saying that I've been running my entire life, and I'm tired. I'm saying that I'd rather die than watch them lock me up. I'm saying that I'm sorry for loving you, because it made me weak when I needed to be strong. Elena, put down the gun. Listen to me first. She raises the weapon not at me, but at herself. My father's research, the thing he died for, I have it. All of it. Everything about Petrov's network. Every connection. Every name. Every transaction. I've compiled it. I've documented it. And it's going to be released to every law enforcement agency in the world the moment something happens to me. What do you mean, something happens to you? I mean a dead man's switch, Marcus. I mean the moment I disappear, the moment I die, everything my father found, everything I've compiled goes to Interpol, to the FBI, to every journalist who ever mattered. And it doesn't matter if Petrov kills me, because he'll already be finished. He'll already be destroyed. So this is suicide. This is liberation, she says, and she sounds almost peaceful. This is me finally finishing what my father started. This is me making sure that you get to live without looking over your shoulder. I don't want you to die. I know. Tears stream down her face. That's what makes this so impossible. She raises the revolver. And I move. I don't think. I don't calculate. I simply move, across the distance between us, faster than she can react, and I grab the weapon. There's a struggle that lasts maybe 3 seconds, and then I have it, and she's collapsing against me, sobbing like her heart is actually breaking apart. Why? She gasps. Why did you stop me? Because I love you, I say. And because you're wrong. Because this doesn't end with you dead. This ends with you fighting. I can't. I'm so tired. I know. But you're not alone anymore. I called Detective Chun myself. The recording plays at exactly 11:47 a.m. in the federal courthouse, and it destroys everything. Elena's voice comes through the speakers, calm, methodical, detailing every connection, every transaction, every link between Julian Kessler and Viktor Petrov. She's documented meetings. She's recorded conversations. She's built an irrefutable case, piece by piece over 10 years, and she's delivered it on a silver platter to the United States government. Julian is arrested before the lunch recess. Within 72 hours, Petrov's network begins to collapse. And Elena, beautiful, broken, desperately brave Elena, is looking at 5 to 7 years in federal prison for cooperating with corporate espionage, even though it's the espionage that saved thousands of lives. She sits across from me in the visitor's room, and I don't recognize her anymore. Not because she's changed, but because I finally understand what she's been, what she's sacrificed, who she's been trying to save. I'm sorry, she says, for lying, for manipulating you, for loving me, I finish, for putting you in danger because I loved you too much to protect you properly. 3 months into Elena's incarceration, I hire the best criminal defense attorney in the country. Her name is Margaret Torres, and she listens to my case for exactly 90 seconds before telling me I'm wasting her time. Your girlfriend committed federal crimes, Torres says. She stole proprietary information. She transmitted confidential data. She manipulated you for months. She was investigating the people who killed her father. I interrupt. She was building a case against organized crime. Everything she did had purpose. Criminals always have purpose, Torres says flatly. It doesn't change the law. Then change it. Find legal loopholes. Find precedent for her cooperation. I don't care what it takes. She destroyed an international crime network. She risked her life. And now she's serving time for it while Julian Kessler is also serving time, Torres points out. 35 years without parole, thanks to Elena's evidence. And you're here asking me to help someone who used you as a pawn in her game. She didn't use me, didn't she? She was literally watching you before she even met you. Yes, and by the time she actually knew me, she stopped being an investigator and became someone who was willing to die to protect me. That's not using someone, Ms. Torres. That's love. Torres studies me over her reading glasses for a long moment. I'll see what I can do, she finally says. But I'm not promising miracles. The legal strategy takes 6 months to develop. Torres finds precedent. She builds a case around Elena's cooperation, her intelligence gathering, and her willingness to testify against Petrov's entire network. She argues that Elena's crimes, while technically violations, were undertaken with the explicit purpose of dismantling a threat to national security. She finds character witnesses, federal agents who benefited from Elena's intelligence. She finds prosecutors willing to testify that her cooperation saved countless lives. And slowly, so slowly that I almost miss it happening, the narrative begins to shift. Elena is no longer a corporate spy. She's a vigilante, a woman who took the law into her own hands because the law was failing her. It's not a perfect narrative, but it's the truth. I haven't missed a single visit. Every week, I sit across from Elena in that visitor's room, separated by glass and phone handsets, and I watch her become a shadow of herself. Prison doesn't suit her. She's too delicate for the brutality of incarceration, too intelligent to accept the monotony. But she's still beautiful to me, still brave, still the woman who threw herself in front of a car. I'm getting you out, I tell her during one visit. No, you're not. Yes, I am. Torres is building a case. She has federal support. We're close. Marcus. She places her hand on the glass. I deserve to be here. I broke the law. Just because the law was broken for good reasons doesn't change that. The law is broken, I say. The system is broken, and I'm not going to let you die inside because of it. She smiles sadly. Do you remember what I said? That I was the woman who betrayed you. You didn't betray me. I stole from you. I lied to you. I manipulated every single thing about our relationship from the beginning. Because you were trying to protect me. Because I was broken, she says quietly. Because my father's death twisted me into someone who thought the only way to survive was to become even colder than the people who hurt me. And then I met you and you made me want to be better, but I was too damaged to actually be better. So instead, I hurt you. I hurt the one person who actually mattered. She drops her hand. I'm going to serve my time, Marcus, and I'm going to spend every day in here thinking about how to become someone worthy of you. And maybe when I get out, maybe then we can have something real. Not built on lies and manipulation. Not born from obsession and fear. Just real.
Elena.
Please, she says. Let me do this. Let me serve this time. Let me earn my way back to you. But I don't let her do it alone. I spend the next 18 months proving, document by document, memo by memo, that Elena's actions, while technically illegal, were undertaken to protect United States interests. I reconstruct her entire life, her father's investigation, his death, her decade-long quest for justice. I turn her narrative into something undeniable. Torres makes the argument before a federal judge. Elena Voss should be freed on time served, with credit for cooperation and testimony that directly resulted in the dismantling of one of the largest organized crime networks in the Northern Hemisphere. The judge, a woman named Richardson with steel-gray hair and a reputation for both harsh sentences and surprising mercy, listens to everything. She reads Elena's file. She reviews the evidence against Petrov's network. She watches the video testimonies of federal agents describing the value of Elena's intelligence. And then she does something that leaves the entire courtroom breathless. She sentences Elena to time served, releases her on a 5-year probation, and looks directly at her from the bench. You broke the law, Judge Richardson says, but you broke it in service of justice and you paid the price for that choice. Don't waste this opportunity. Don't waste the life your father died protecting. Do better. Elena is released on a Thursday afternoon in November. I'm waiting for her outside the federal building, and when she walks out, thin and pale and so fragile I'm terrified she might shatter, she stops 5 feet away from me. I don't know how to do this, she says. I don't know how to be in a relationship without lies, without games, without survival strategies. Then we'll figure it out together. What if I hurt you again? Then I'll forgive you, and you'll forgive yourself, and we'll keep going. She walks into my arms, and she's shaking. I've spent so long being the woman who saves people that I forgot how to let people save me, she whispers. I don't know how to be rescued, Marcus. I don't know how to be vulnerable without weaponizing it. You're already doing it, I tell her. Right now. This is what vulnerability looks like. This is what trust looks like. We stand there in the November cold, and I think about the woman I met in a basement surrounded by blueprints. I think about the woman who watched me from across rooms. I think about the woman who threw herself in front of a car. And I understand, finally, that every version of Elena, the investigator, the liar, the obsessive watcher, the woman in front of me, all of it is love. It's all been love, expressed the only way she knew how. We don't go back to the penthouse. Instead, we drive north to a small town on the coast, where nobody knows who we are. We rent a house with windows overlooking the ocean, and we start again from nothing. Elena learns to trust. Not perfectly. There are still moments when I catch her watching me with that analytical intensity. Still moments when she flinches at surprises. Still nights when she wakes up with nightmares about prison. But slowly, gradually, she becomes someone new. And I become someone new too. I rebuild my company on different foundations. I establish a foundation in my father's name, dedicated to exposing corruption in families and corporations. I use the Ashford wealth for what my father was too afraid to use it for, not hiding secrets, but revealing them. Elena becomes part of it. She uses her skills, the ones that were criminal before, to help victims of organized crime. She testifies in cases. She helps federal agents build narratives that convince courts and juries. She stops running, and I stop being afraid that she'll leave. 1 year later, I take her back to the place where we almost lost each other. Meridian Street is quiet on a Tuesday evening. The rain from the night of the car has long since dried. There's nothing to mark that moment. No memorial, no reminder. Nothing to suggest that a woman threw herself in front of a car to save a man's life. I was so broken, Elena says, looking at the street like it's a holy place. And you were so determined to fix me. But I think maybe I needed to be broken. Maybe I needed to hit absolute bottom before I could actually heal. You saved me, I say. You saved me back. She takes my hand, and it's just a simple gesture. Fingers interlacing, palm against palm. But it carries the weight of everything we survived. Everything we lost. Everything we gained. I love you, she says. Not because you're my hero. Not because you're the good man who did the right thing. I love you because you're the man who chose to believe in me even when I gave you every reason not to. I love you because you were willing to burn everything down to save me from myself. I pull her close, and I kiss her like it's our first kiss all over again. Like we're meeting in that basement for the first time. Like we're strangers who have no idea what's coming. I love you because you were brave enough to watch me when I didn't even know I needed watching. Because you were obsessed enough to spend 10 years building a case against men who could destroy you. Because you loved me so much that you were willing to die to protect me. The sun is setting over the city, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. And standing on Meridian Street, where everything almost ended, I hold the woman I love and whisper the thing I've been waiting a year to say. Marry me. She doesn't answer with words. She answers by pulling back just enough to look at me, really look at me, and I see it then, the moment when she decides to trust completely. The moment when she stops being the woman who watches from the shadows and becomes the woman who stands in the light. Yes, she says. Yes, absolutely yes. And we kiss while the city lights flicker on around us. And I think about the strange and terrible and beautiful journey that brought us here. I think about a woman throwing herself in front of a car. I think about a man learning to trust someone he had every reason to fear. I think about broken people becoming whole. Not despite their damage, but because of it. 2 years later, in the garden of the house overlooking the ocean, Elena walks toward me in a white dress that reminds me of the marble and steel of her soul. Beautiful, improbable, impossibly strong. She's radiant. Not because it's her wedding day, though it is, but because she's learned, finally, how to be happy without fear. How to love without holding back. How to trust that the person standing in front of her isn't going to disappear the moment she blinks. As she reaches me, the wind catches her hair, and for just a second, she looks exactly like the woman I saw in the basement. The woman watching me with those eyes that saw everything. "Hi," she says, taking my hands.
"E yourself, Isai."
"Still sure about this? Still sure about me?" "I've never been sure of anything in my life except you," I tell her. "From the moment you saved me on Meridian Street, I knew you were it for me. Everything after that was just catching up to what I already knew." "That you loved me? That you loved me," I correct. "You were willing to die for me. I just had to catch up to that level of commitment." She laughs. A real laugh, not guarded, not held back. And when she laughs, I see every version of her that I've loved. The investigator, the obsessed watcher, the woman in the hospital bed, the criminal, the victim, the survivor. All of it is beautiful. "I love you," she says as we exchange rings. "The version of me that will love you forever is the version that was watching you in the basement. That was willing to risk everything. That threw herself in front of a car because the alternative was a world where you didn't exist in it." "I know," I say. "That's the version I fell in love with. That obsessive, dangerous, broken woman who couldn't stop protecting me even though it was destroying her. That's the woman I want to spend my life with." She cries when she says her vows, and I cry when I say mine. And everyone in that garden, the small group of people who know the real story, understands that we're not just celebrating a wedding. We're celebrating survival. As the sun sets on our wedding day, Elena and I walk back to the house, and I catch her watching me again. That same analytical gaze that started everything. "What?" I ask. "I was just thinking about Meridian Street," she says. "About the moment I realized I loved you so much that I would die for you. I was thinking about how everything before that felt like I was drowning, and that moment, throwing myself in front of that car, was the first time I'd ever breathed. And now I'm drowning in a different way, in a good way, in a way that doesn't feel like dying." I pull her close as the stars begin to emerge above the ocean. "We survived everything," I say. "We did," she agrees. "We survived secrets and lies and betrayal and prison and fear and obsession. So what's next?" She smiles at me, and it's the smile of a woman who finally knows she's home. "Now," she says, "we get to live."